I went to one of the least visited countries in the world called the Moon Islands. And I'm going to tell you exactly how you can do it too to visit this untouched paradise. Now, the Comoro Islands are located off the east coast of Africa with a population of about 1 million, and the people are a majority Muslim. The history is unbelievable, but the nature is even more incredible and so worth a visit. Now, in this video, I'm going to show you exactly how to get around, where to stay, all the tools you need to really maximize your experience without breaking the bank. I'm also going to share with you the 5 crazy oddities of Comoro Islands, as well as my favorite 2 facts and a fiction, and the highlights of my trip to Comoro. And before we get started, I'd really appreciate if you can subscribe to get more content that you're about to experience to really maximize your journeys around the world. Now it's time for 2 facts and a fiction. Number 1, one of the largest bats in the world exists only in the Comoro Islands. Number 2, one of the main ingredients of perfumes, ylang ylang, exists in the Comoro Islands. And number 3, there are 4 main islands to the Comoro Islands that is underneath the sovereignty of the country. Now let's wait till the end to find out which one of those is the fiction. So here are some things I want you to consider before you go to the Comoro Islands and when you get there. First of all, in terms of the visa, it was pretty easy to get it in the airport on arrival. But you should have cash with you because you never know when you need it, and it's much easier to pay for things with cash like the visa. In terms of accommodations, I stayed in the main capital of Morani and used it as a base to kind of go around the main island in the Comoro Islands. And the place I stayed in was more like a business hotel, not great, no bells and whistles. It was probably one of the better properties there, and it was quite affordable. And I would stay definitely, even though the Comoro Islands are very, very safe, I would definitely consider staying in one of the nicer places, again, just for comfort and I guess additional safety. The place is not that expensive at all. You could pretty much get away with, having $100, $150 a day would pretty much take you very, very far in terms of transportation, food, and so forth. So again, I wouldn't worry too much about expenses in the Comoro Islands. In terms of flight, I was able to get to the Comoro Islands on a direct flight from Nairobi, which was really, really important. And I think it's one of the main ways that you can get to the Comoro Islands, to the capital. And then from there, you can take like internal flights to get to the other islands. So just something to kind of think about. In terms of a guide, I definitely don't recommend going to the Comoro Islands completely on your own unless you have a ton of time to kind of really acclimate. I would suggest finding a guide, and I was super lucky because I went to the tourist office in the city of Morani and was just going to ask the tourist office again just for some general information. And there was a guy there because the place was closing, and he was just kind of chilling there with his undershirt and shorts. And I started talking to him, and his English was impeccable. And he became a good friend of mine, almost immediately. And we ended up seeing the island all the next day together, and it was such a game changer. So I really recommend a guide or someone local that can kind of show you the ropes. Now here are the 5 oddities of the Comoro Islands. Number 1, it was settled initially by inhabitants from Polynesia and Melanesia. That's thousands of miles away in the Pacific Ocean that came all the way to the Comoro Islands. Number 2, the country from its independence in 1975 till present day had over 20 coups d'etats. And at one point it was called the Cuckoo Islands because they had a coup d'etat every 2.5 years. Number 3, there is a lake in the Comoro Islands, in the main island called Sal Lake. And there, they say that if you throw a stone, you won't even see a drop into the lake. And in fact, anybody that has gone into the lake has never come out alive. Number 4, there was a group of people on one part of the island that really wished that they had a mosque so they can pray. And suddenly the next day a mosque appeared, and that same mosque is there, and I explored it when I was there. Number 5, and the craziest of all, is that in the Comoro Islands they have something called the Petit Mariage and the Grand Mariage, which are 2 different weddings for the same couple. The Petit Mariage basically happens when the couple first meet and get married, right? And they're not that wealthy. The Grand Mariage, which is like a 10-day shenanigans and craziness with gold and parties, and it's just everything, right? And as part of that Grand Mariage, that could happen only when the couple actually has amassed wealth, which can be 5, 10, 15, even 20 years later. The house that they buy is actually owned and overseen by the bride. So it is quite a matriarchal society. So I want to kind of share with you the highlights of my trip to the Comoro Islands. And again, caveat, I wasn't there for very long, around 3 days, and I didn't go to the other islands as much as I really wanted to because the other islands are absolutely stunning in terms of raw natural beauty. But I still was able to see a good amount of the main island. I want to share that with you. One of the first things that we did, me and Nawad, my guide, was that we kind of walked around the old town and got to see it. And it's like a maze kind of going between the little streets and so forth. And what was really cool is he took me to his grandparents' home, and you know, it's kind of abandoned and nobody had lived there for many years. So we kind of walked up the stairs and got to the top, and then we just saw the whole town below us. You could see the mosque and the port, you know, the government buildings and the, you know, the old streets. And it was just so cool because you kind of feel like how it felt hundreds of years ago to kind of see it. You can almost imagine it, and it was just really an incredible experience. Another really cool experience was praying in the oldest mosque there, which is kind of right in the capital. And what's really cool about it is that it's right on the water. So while you're praying, you can see it and so forth. And it's very soothing. And I was really lucky because it was closed, but I was able to find someone who opened it for me, and they allowed me to pray there, which was just absolutely beautiful. One of the cool things I was able to do is kind of go on a road trip with Nawad and his friends. And one of the places we stopped at was Saw Lake. And so I told them, listen, you guys say nobody can, you know, you can't hit the lake with a rock and see it. So I kind of wound back, told them I'm going to do it, and I freaking threw the rock, and boom, you could hear it splash, you could see it splash. It was amazing. And then I did it again, and they couldn't do it. So I felt really pumped about that. But such a beautiful backdrop because the nature is just so beautiful and raw there. And I have to say, the moment for me really was going to this place that's called the Dragon's Back, or the Dos de Dragon. And it was really cool because it's this rock formation that kind of goes along the coastline. And it definitely looks like a dragon's back. And so we kind of hiked up into it. There was like goats and stuff like that grazing up there. And then when you got to the top, you just saw this incredible mountain landscape that was all green and lush. And then below you was this beautiful ocean coastline, and just magical. You have all these, you know, bats flying around, all kinds of things happening. And it was just so magical. Such a testament to the raw nature of the Comoro Islands. I kind of want to tell you a little bit kind of like of my own personal kind of ranking from definitely go to definitely avoid. I have to say that the Comoro Islands, again, one of the least visited countries in the world, is a must. It is such a beautiful place, great food, incredible backdrop of nature. Each island is different in its own right. And while I didn't get to see the other islands, and while the country is definitely one of the poorer countries in Africa, it is still such a beautiful place to visit and see. And I would highly recommend it because it's like untouched, raw nature with very few tourists, if that's your thing. And now I want to kind of end it with the answer to the 2 facts and a fiction. So again, number 1 is ylang. Ylang is one of the main ingredients of perfume, and the Comoro Islands exports 80% of the world's ylang from there because the French bought it. It's such a beautiful scent, and it's actually part of Chanel number 5. Also, the Livingston bat exists only in the Comoro Islands. Its wingspan is almost 5 feet, and it makes it one of the largest bats in the world. And I saw them right there in the Comoro Islands. And number 3, the fiction, is while there are 4 islands that kind of form the Comoro Islands, one of them is administered by France, even though it's claimed by the Comoro Islands, but is not officially part of the Comoro Islands because they sought their kind of independence and was taken over by France. Well, I hope you enjoyed this video and got a good sense of the behind the scenes of the Comoro Islands. If you have any questions or comments, please post them below. I personally answer all of those, and I'd love to kind of create an exchange with you and learn more about your own experiences if you've been to the Comoro Islands and have suggestions for me. And also, I would really appreciate it if you can subscribe to the channel to get more content of like what you got right now, and to get more content of learning about my own travel experiences around the world. Thank you for watching. Stay curious, and I look forward to seeing you on my next journey.